Hello friends, frequently gets caught pretending to understand inside jokes here, bringing you another Dota 2 video where I'm going to be covering the biggest difference between 3K, 6K, and 8K MMR players. In Dota 2, there exists a curve of apprehension on which every single player falls somewhere. Closer to the left side of the curve, you have 2 to 3K MMR players who don't necessarily know or practice all of the concepts in the game, and so they have little to no fear in many situations, since they are mostly ignoring the proverbial threats looming in the darkness. 6K players, on the other hand, have a far better understanding of the game, or at the very least, they know how to put into practice really important concepts in the game, and so in many situations, they are extremely fearful. And this is precisely because they understand the game well enough that they are fully aware of the threats looming in the darkness, and they choose to avoid them. 8K players, however, typically have an acute understanding of most of the concepts in the game, so they know the risks, but they also know the best way to mitigate risks. So they, like a 3K player, lack fear when faced with certain decisions. In other words, 3K players are aggressive, 6K players are defensive, and 8K players are aggressive or defensive depending on the situation. So, ironically, 3K MMR players often make correct decisions where 6K players will not, because if the situation requires aggression, 6K players will act defensively. On the flip side, in situations requiring defensive actions, 3K players will often feed because they run in guns blazing, whereas 6K MMR players will correctly get the hell out. With that being said, depending on where you fall on this graph when you are faced with certain decisions, you may very well be losing a lot of games by either under or overplaying your hand in certain situations, when there may actually be an 8K MMR method to make the exact same play without overplaying. In this video, I'm going to give you some tools that you can use to identify and fix such game-losing problems that you are often faced with in your own pubs. But first, let's take a look at an actual example of this phenomenon in 3K, 6K, and 8K MMR brackets. First off, let's take a look at this clip from 3K MMR where we have a respectable gentleman here playing anti-mage. It is 15 minutes into the game. All we have is a Battle Fury, so absolutely, we are not interested in taking any fights because this is literally an item that just lets you farm quicker. I mean, it gives you a bit of damage, but it's a pathetic amount of damage. We can see here that on the minimap, this Legion Commander, this is a replay bug. I don't know why it is showing the Legion as showing. There's actually no vision here, it's just a bug, but nobody is showing. All we saw was a Venomancer mid a couple of seconds ago. There is a Zeus that is dead, so there's not really great information that is being given to us on the map. And so Anti-Mage decides, okay, I'm going to go up to this creep wave top because I want to farm, I want to hear that cha-ching sound, which is exactly right, which is what you should do on Anti-Mage. Now he sees the Legion, so this is all of a sudden a very dangerous situation. I mean, it was dangerous before because he didn't see the Legion Commander or the Skywrath who can silence him, but now this is just tremendously more dangerous because you literally see the Legion right there. So what does he choose to do? Well, because this guy has absolutely monster-sized balls, he doesn't run away. In fact, he pings the Legion to go on the Legion, walks up, and gets Blade Mail dueled, dying from full HP, for some reason fighting with a farming item, and then his Midlina TPs in, and also feeds. And now the game is basically over because we went in completely aggressive in a situation where, you know, defense on a hero that literally just wants to hit creeps was definitely warranted. Next up, we have our 6K MMR Anti-Mage. We can see that it's about the same time in the game. He is just about to get his Battle Fury. He is farming very safely directly in front of his base, farming a creep wave, of course. Winter Wyvern pops out, nukes a little bit, and what's really important here is that we can see that Lycan and Windranger are currently dead, so this is 5v3, even though it is an 11k gold lead. There is a lot of space on the map right now because two heroes are dead. Anti-Mage could position himself essentially anywhere on the map, but because he is feeling like he can die to heroes once they're all alive, he chooses to go to his triangle. He knows he's an anti-mage. He knows it's his job to farm right now. He's only got a farming item. 3K players, they know they've got to farm, but they run in because it's fun. Anti-mage, 6K, he goes to farm safely in front of his base. He farms up this creep wave, which I would actually say is, given the gold lead that the enemy team has, that's slightly more aggressive than I would say most 6Ks will play. A lot of people would just essentially hit this triangle. He stacks up this camp, of course, farms that, farms the ancients. And so here's the problem with these moves to the defensive triangle as opposed to moving to what previously seemed like a more aggressive area. Now what has happened, if we go to the enemy team, they've actually all converged towards this top lane because this is where Roche is. This is where the objective that they want to take next is. And so Anti-Mage, he walks up to this farm that it's not safe anymore, but it's the closest farm to him and he has to farm. So he literally just dies. And essentially what has happened here is because of these innately defensive choices that he made that were originally defensive, he's locked himself into this side of the map, and unfortunately, the enemy team, because they're just playing fast, they're playing well, they run at the objectives, and this is no longer safe. This is an unsafe place to farm, and he feeds. So essentially, depending on the situation, these defensive actions can have the same consequence as these aggressive actions, where you just end up dying, or he just backs off into his base and he can't get out of base to farm. Next up, we're going to take a look at an 8K MMR anti-mage. Some of these parts I want to go quickly because it's just hitting creeps. Other parts I want to go slowly because there is a lot happening in this clip, but we can see the game state is relatively the same, at least in terms of what anti-mage wants to achieve. If you have a 5K gold lead, 6K gold lead, if you're even, it doesn't matter. Anti-mage with the Battle Fury wants to farm. So here we can see our buddy on Anti-Mage is farming up the triangle. If we take a look at the mini-map, there's not that much information that's being revealed. We see Weaver is in the enemy triangle. We see that Rubik is top, Grimstroke is bot. However, what you have to keep in mind in this game is that Queen of Pain has an Orchid and Grimstroke has Phantom's Embrace. So any combination of one other hero plus one of these silencing heroes will kill Anti-Mage. However, he sees that there is Ogre, there is Weaver running towards bot, there's Grimstroke bot. And so, because his team is also going down there to fight and he sees Queen of Pain on a ward, what he does is he moves up towards this top lane. He doesn't just continue farming the triangle. He doesn't farm the easy camp. He sees that this engagement is happening. He knows he's an anti-mage who doesn't want to fight. He wants to farm. And so the way that he contributes to the game is by pushing lanes. He's got a catapult. He's going to do some damage on the tower. And there's one choice that he could have made here if he was feeling really defensive for no particular reason, if he wasn't actually consuming the information on the map and making choices based on that. He could farm this easy camp right here, which is perfectly available. And so instead, he actually goes to this camp, which is closer to the enemy base, which is more aggressive farm. And then, because this fight is still going bot, you can see that his camera is moving. He goes directly in front of the enemy base, being a massive thorn in their side, and cuts the creep wave, which does some good damage to that tier 2 tower top. Then he's also able to stop this catapult from sieging mid, all while his team is taking a fight. So basically, he's farming while actually being productive in the game. And I want to take a look at his camera movements. He is constantly looking towards the lanes to see the status of where the creeps are. He's looking towards the enemy heroes, especially the Queen of Pain and the Grimstroke, to see that they are, as you can see on the map, that they are indeed bottom, which means that he can hit this tower and, once again, be productive in the game without actually showing up to fights. So once they pop Fortification, now we are in this state where nobody on the enemy team is seen, other than, of course, he knows that the Queen of Pain is dead, 2 of his heroes are dead, and they just popped fort. So there's a chance that they are coming to defend this tower, and they might kill him. However, he doesn't just immediately TP out, he doesn't blink out, he doesn't go to his triangle. He stays aggressively around these wards, farming aggressively, so that way he has the chance, he has the choice that he can make to go back and be aggressive if the enemy team does indeed show themselves elsewhere. So he sees that with this ward vision, as well as just his creep vision, the enemy team has not defended this yet. Weaver shows bot, and so therefore, it's very likely that they are not defending this and that this is safe. It just so happens in this game that the enemy team didn't come to try to kill him, so he never backed off to his triangle. But if they did come to try to kill him, he would basically farm backwards away from the enemy jungle, from those aggressive camps that he was taking, and he would go farm up the triangle. First off, How do you identify if you are over or underplaying when faced with certain situations in Dota 2? Well, overplaying is fairly easy to identify because it usually means that you're feeding, and everybody understands the pain that you feel after a poorly timed, horribly game-losing death. Underplaying, on the other hand, is quite a bit more subtle. But a great way to identify it is when you get that typical feeling that there is nothing that you can do in a game. In either case, once you've identified a problem area, which is honestly half the battle, head over to Dota2ProTracker.com and click the hero that you were playing in the game with the problem that you want to solve. Then take a look at how your favorite pro player plays in that exact same scenario. If you fed in lane as a Batrider versus a Slark, do not beat around the bush. Watch a game with a pro playing Bat against a lane counter, not a game where the lane is easy. Once you've seen what they do, take note of it and go into your pubs first picking the hero that you have the problem with. Then force yourself to try to do what the pro was doing. Do it if your team flames you. Do it if you end up feeding. Do it if the game doesn't even call for you to do it. Why? Because this process is all about learning, not winning. And chances are, after about 3 or 4 games of doing this, you will very quickly understand exactly why the pro player does what they do, and you will be significantly better at the hero. And that's actually a little secret that people don't realize about being good at Dota. You don't have to learn 500 things about a hero to be 8K level with it. If you solve 4 or 5 of these problem areas on a hero, well, most heroes only have 4 or 5 weaknesses. In other words, if you want to be a pro-level hero spammer, you don't really need to learn a metric ton of concepts. You just need to master a few. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe. I am very, very close to the 100,000 subscriber mark, and when that comes, you get a special badge, which I will be, of course, selling for money. I have been approached by a gentleman by the name of Chris Kringle, who supposedly has a whole army waiting for him that is willing to help me out with the current situation that I'm in with the hobos, and they are up north. So a lot of train or plane tickets need to be purchased for this particular army, and that's going to require me to sell that subscriber badge. So please hit that button, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a description. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you in another video.